Hi, I'm Gene. Welcome to Bergenfield. It's a friendly town. What can I do for you?
The friendly town? Why do you call it that?
Why do I call it a friendly town? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't even live in this town. But I own this diner. And the people in Bergenfield are the friendliest people I've ever met.
Aw, come on.
No, I'm serious. This is the only place in Bergenfield that's open 24 hours a day. And people from all walks of life come in here, such as policemen, firemen, businessmen, to have their conversations and get-togethers. And when a stranger like you comes into my diner, first thing I greet them with is, welcome to Bergenfield, the friendly town. And the people in Bergenfield are trying to adopt it as their slogan, the friendly town. What can I do for you?
I'll have a cup of tea.
Okay.
Believe it or not, this really is how Bergenfield got its friendly town nickname. The diner no longer stands here in Bergenfield, but the town remains as friendly as ever. Hello, and welcome to Looking Back. I'm your host, Maureen Parenta, and in this month's edition of Cablevision's History Series, we'll trace the history of one of Bergen County's most historic and important communities, the borough of Bergenfield. With the Chamber of Commerce listing over 240 stores and shops based here in town, it is plain to see that the business community here is very healthy. Long before Bergenfield was incorporated, before the roads were built, when Bergenfield contained only one home, that of the pastor of the Old South Church, the seeds of business were already taking root. In the early 1800s, Bergenfield was the home of a woodworking mill, a flour and feed mill, and a tavern. Soon, the business community grew to include a shoemaker, a blacksmith, and a tannery. But what was to become Bergenfield's transformation from an agricultural to commercial center was a result of many important factors. One, which may have provided area residents with the impetus to delve into business for themselves, was the success of a barn turned factory, T.R. Cooper's Chair Factory. In 1840, Richard Tunis Cooper and his wife bought 15 acres of land along the Long Swamp Brook in Trollenberg. The property included a frame house, a grist mill, a barn, and a mill pond. Using the natural resources available to him, the wood from the surrounding forest, the rush from the swamps, and the water power from the creek, Richard Tunis Cooper carried on his small business as a chair maker. But it was Richard's son, Tunis Richard Cooper, who developed this small business into a factory.
The father moved here in 1840, and what he did was get farmers who weren't busy on their farms to come help him make chairs in the wintertime. Richard's only son, Tunis, bought the farm and the house and the grist mill, the sawmill from him, and in 1849, and immediately turned it into a operation, chair factory. And within 10 years, he had the building in New York, showroom, and they were shipping the chairs into New York and getting them matted with brush seats and cane seats, and it was big business. And at the high point of the chair factory, they had at least 25 people working there, and it wasn't any longer a wintertime operation, it was all year round. It was really an early part of the Industrial Revolution. And I suppose at that time, perhaps the biggest commercial operation in the Hackensack area, this part of Bergen County. When they got going really well, they were selling chairs by the dozens and hundreds to the Greenbrier Hotel in West Virginia, Saratoga Springs Hotel up in New York, and there was one case of some chairs going down to an island in the Caribbean, and they had salesmen in New York, they had people who were carving chairs here, they had people who were matters, they're the ones who do the chair seats, and joiners. It was a big operation. What happened was they'd cut down trees and cut off the limbs and get the bark off and float these great huge pieces of tree in the pond to season. So it wasn't as pretty as it is now, but the pond had a useful part to perform in addition to supplying the water power to cut the wood. And the chairs were made by the uprights being green and the splats, which are the cross pieces, and the stretches down at the bottom here, being green. They were put together and dried. Nothing was done in a hurry. It wasn't a 24-hour job. This took weeks, I assume, maybe even months. And then when they were dried, they were together for good without any nails or any glue, which is remarkable, really. And there are lots of chairs around that are still in use after all this time, in hard use, everyday use.
This is all that is left of Tunis Cooper's business, part of the barn which housed his factory. The end of the chair factory came almost as quickly as its beginning. The business's swift decline was marked by the closing of the New York showroom in 1863. The exact reason for the business's decline is not known, but it's believed to have been a combination of the economic effects of the Civil War, plus the purported embezzlement by Tunis Cooper's son-in-law. So, with the chair factory gone, the area was in dire need of a catalyst to help continue the growth of Schralenberg. Enter the railroad. The railroad played a very important role in the growth and formation of most of Bergen County's communities. The location of the railroad was the key to land development and played a large part in the formation and placement of a town's commercial center. As in neighboring communities, the railroad played an important role in the evolution of Bergenfield. But more importantly, it was Bergenfield, or Schralenberg, which played an even larger role in the formation of the railroad.
Cornelius Christie, who was born in 1820, during his years here in Bergenfield, he was a successful harness maker and farmer, and around about 1870, he became involved with other people in the area and people from New York City at that time in the formation of a railroad, at that time called the Richfield Park Railway, which was operated between Richfield Park and Tappan, New York. However, as far as Cornelius Christie and his efforts go, it is said that, you know, it was his successfulness in organizing and helped to organize and financing the railroad that it came to be in the place where it is today. And although by the time these things, the railroads actually came into being and were into full operation, it was later on in his life. He never really gained any financial benefits from the railroad, but it was at least able to see them develop as they did at that time.
As important as Cornelius Christie and the Schralenberg area were to the railroad was perhaps even more important to Bergenfield, or should we say the name Bergenfield. In 1873, the New Jersey and New York Railroad decided to build a station in the southern half of Schralenberg. Now, with the northern half station, already in present-day Dumont, named Schralenberg, there was great debate as to what to call the new station in the south. The name South Schralenberg was opposed because residents felt that it implied the area to be a weak sister to the Schralenberg of the north. Others opposed it, saying that it was too lengthy and difficult to spell. The railroad, growing impatient over the people's inability to come up with a name, named the area itself, designating it Bergen Fields.
2 tickets for Bergenfield, please.
2 tickets for Bergenfield. Train leaves at 10:15, track number 2. And enjoy your trip.
Thank you very much.
The name did not have all the support of local residents, but after time, the resentment subsided, and the name settled as Bergenfield. In 1873, it was a man by the name of John Zabrinsky Demarest who opened one of the first general stores in the area. The store was located on West Main Street, on property once owned by John J. Christie, Jr. The store also served as a coal and lumber yard, as well as the town's first post office and the location of Bergenfield's very first telephone.
Oh, that was something to go into. It was real old-time, full of everything. The counter, you just had about space to put down what you wanted, and then he would give you the mail. I remember our box was number 104, and I'd always watch him get the mail out there to take home. But he had all sorts of things, brooms and brushes and things for the house cleaning and whatever, and baskets. That was another thing.
Unfortunately, the Demarest General Store no longer stands. In its place, one can find the Bergenfield Post Office. With the opening of the Demarest store, the door to small business in Bergenfield opened even wider. Carol Demarest, whose uncle was J.Z. Demarest, tells us more.
Next to us on the north side was Strutt's butcher shop, and he had a Chinese laundry in his butcher shop there on one side. We used to sit out nights and hear David, Jim, and Fupoi. They were father and son, and they would be ironing from one of these big long sticks that came down from the ceiling, the electric cord attached to it. They'd be ironing away their nights, and we'd be having a lot of fun. Next to them was a dry goods store, and that was Morris Sabin who owned that. And he was always so friendly when you'd go in there. Then across the street, we had Sam Kessel's hardware store, and that was a place to go. People would kind of gather there at night because he wouldn't have customers constantly, and so he had a little chance to talk with them outside and sit on the bench.
So we can see, in the early 1900s, Bergenfield held great promise for businessmen and women. But it wasn't until well into the 20th century that business began to expand. In spite of what some may think, there was not a period of rapid growth. Following the Second World War, Bergenfield enjoyed a period of prosperity, but in general, business expanded in accordance with the community. In 1910, the population of Bergenfield was just under 2,000. By 1940, that number had grown to over 10,000, and today, with a population of over 30,000, Bergenfield has become a prosperous and progressive borough, well known for its busiest street, Washington Avenue. But this growth was not without its setbacks, the most celebrated of which was the setback felt by the entire nation. Mrs. Althea Virgil was a piano teacher in Bergenfield during the Depression. During this time, Mrs. Virgil chronicled all her hopes and fears in well-kept diaries.
It is difficult to play anything without thinking of the problems which have befallen us in Bergenfield. Our problems are certainly taking their toll on me. I'm having great difficulty in sleeping as our debts build, but answers as to how we will make our payments are scarce. The crash on Wall Street has put a heavy burden upon us, as well as almost everyone, I suppose. Since October, no one has signed up for lessons. In fact, Mr. Signori called with his wife to inform me that their daughter Charlotte would no longer be able to study with me, but that they hope she will be able to resume playing the piano at some time. It is difficult to understand how such a disaster as the collapse on Wall Street can happen. I am terribly discouraged at the hard times here in Bergenfield. I think I will leave everything to the Infinite Father and hope it will all turn for the better.
Bergenfield, like other communities in the area, fought hard to overcome the economic drought left by the Depression. This film, taken in 1933, was used as an advertising tool to entice people to new developments in Bergenfield following the Depression. The entire film, which is over 30 minutes in length, showed Bergenfield's already proud Washington Avenue business district, all of the borough's fine churches and schools, and also focused on the borough's outstanding fire departments. Whether it was due to the film or for whatever reason, Bergenfield's population did expand, and with it, so did the business community. One of Bergenfield's most prominent businessmen, Bud Rewerts, recalls the period.
We had small shops. We had small hardware stores. We had a number of florists. We had small dress shops. Florence was one of them, and then, of course, in the early 50s, I believe, she tore down her nice old stone house, which was located where the store is today, and built what is known today as the Florence shop. It's really a department store, but it's still called a Florence shop, and it's the anchor store. It brings a lot of people into the community.
The Florence shop, started by Florence and Neil Eberhardt in 1937, has become the anchor store of Bergenfield. It began as a small dress shop on Washington Avenue. It catered exclusively to women, and within a short time became such a great success that in 1942, the shop was moved to larger quarters at 19 South Washington Avenue. The new store was completely renovated and served as the dress shop's home until 1952. By this time, the Florence shop had become one of the major retailers of the area, attracting consumers throughout the county. It soon became apparent that another expansion was necessary, so a new Florence shop was created on the corner of Washington Avenue and Main Street, where it stands today. Neil Eberhardt remembers.
Yeah, we didn't have any money when we started. That's the funny part of this whole thing. People come and say, hey, you didn't have any money, where'd you get this? You know, well, we didn't tell them we robbed banks and all that. But we you know, and when you get in business, you have to have a line of credit with the manufacturers. They've got to know you. They'll send you merchandise, and they know that the following 10th of the month, you're going to pay the bill. So, but we had no line of credit with them because here we started up in the town here, a little, that was a small store. And we used to go, Florence and I had to get on a bus, go to New York to the manufacturers over in the garment district, and she would pick out things that she needed and they put it in the box. And we used to bring whatever cash we had, what we sold that day, we would bring the cash along to pay the owner. The owner would come out. They were very obliging.
Since the opening of the Florence shop, The business community has grown from about 50 to over 225 businesses. Merchants have come and gone, and many stores have been replaced by new ones. Still, a handful remain as a testament to the prosperity associated with the borough. The Christie Agency, located on West Main Street alongside the railroad, recently celebrated its 100th year. Other stores, such as Palace Shoe Repairs, the Bergenfield Press, and Betty Lee Drugs, which resides on the site of the old Bergenfield Diner, have weathered the years since the opening of the original Florence shop. The longevity of the businesses and the continuing success that befalls the many stores and shops of Bergenfield may be attributed to the small neighborhood atmosphere, their many contributions to the community, or quite possibly, that friendliness is good business. When one looks at Bergenfield today, it is difficult to picture the rural and agricultural countryside that once dominated this borough, as well as this entire county. Time and progress has changed Bergenfield, but this town, this friendly town, has taken these changing times and has created a business and residential community to be proud of. We hope you've enjoyed this look back at the history of Bergenfield as much as we've enjoyed presenting it to you. For Looking Back, I'm Maureen Parenta. Have a good evening.